I am Ranjana Gupta, and with me is Romit Sanyal, and together we are going to be talking about how to shape the future with people and not consumers. But you might ask, like visionary innovators, about the value of market research and people who participate in them in defining the future. But can we challenge that skepticism with a moment of reflection about what we expect from an individual in a 30-minute interview when trained people like us and our clients, with our resources and our salaries, are unable to manage this most of the time? So maybe the issue is with the expectation. Don't expect her to tell you how to solve the brand's problems in future. Speak to her about her problems, her needs, her future and expectations. Don't ask her to explain what she needs, but let her show through her choices. Know the person, not the consumer, and the future strategy will be born out of that. I can imagine what you're thinking. Am I practicing what I preach? We are, and we'll demonstrate that with the example of a multinational client. Our client lost half their share in a growing market in last decade. Speaking to consultants, insights leaders did not hear beyond getting current communication playback, and the problem of decline remained. So we asked them to redefine their problem from limited category view to meta category, from price to value, from ingredients to innovations, from conventional marketer defined benefits to people's needs and tensions. Now that we have redefined the business issue in a futuristic manner, I will pass on to Romit, who will first show how successfully you met this new brief and then talk about how we designed the approach to deliver.
Thank you, Ranjana. Hi, I am Romit. I'll first take you through the results and the impact of our approach before getting into how we designed the research. Let's begin with the impact. We identified and sized not just current spaces like Space 1, where the conventionally marketed defined category and brand played, and catering to the family safety needs, but also evolving spaces like Space 5, with far more individual aspirations and self-care expectations, a space which no existing mainstream brand was speaking to. And when we mapped brands to these spaces, we discovered that nearly 50% of the market was untapped white space poised for disruption. We demonstrated that we cannot treat any demography or even the same need as a monolith, something that marketers are often found doing, with Gen Z for example. Both these spaces are young and want freedom of choice and expression, but while the upmarket space 4 is focused on living in the moment, middle class space 5 is far more ambitious and focused on growth. And hence, the solutions or innovations that these two spaces need are very different. While Space 4 is focused on finer sensorial experiences, Space 5 is looking for smart and practical care. And using all these learnings seen thus far, we were able to tell the client how to activate each space. For example, in Space 4, what would be the possible differentiator? Talk of unique self-expression. Products that should be personalized. And the communication that should cue do the new, sparkle and fun. We have co-formulated future brand strategy with client basis learnings like this. We have activated this approach across markets and categories, revealing some big learnings. In one market, we found that there is an enormous latent need for beauty benefits, but the current share for products delivering it was less than 1%. Why? Because of limited understanding of people motivations. While in another market, we were able to capture the market's cultural evolution. We identified and sized the aspirational youth of the market who have an immense self-belief that they can rise above their circumstances. Pretty much like the young Indian cricket team which conquered Australia very recently. And this was one of the largest spaces in the market and completely unexplored. Now, hopefully you are convinced that we delivered the goods. So let us talk about how we did this. There are 4 cornerstones to our approach, which are brought together in a choice exercise to replace the conventional scale responses or even the match-deep designs. First, think people. Consumers are defined by present and potential use of what already exists in some form. But we are much more than the sum of what we use. We are people. We are more complex and we are constantly evolving. This evolution shows shape of the future. For example, 20 years ago, women were happy with shampoo, soap and lipstick. But the same women today demand much more. Demand more than just surface beauty. But to capture this, put the woman first and not the lipstick consumer. Second, go meta. Brands and products are marketer defined boundaries and often constrained by what is available today. This limits the competition set, leaving one open to unexpected disruption. The meta-category approach considers anything that can substitute your brand and products as competition, and hence, it is the larger space that can meet the same need. So, not cars, but Mobility. Not moisturizers, but skin and beauty care. Not hotels, but vacations. Meta reveals new avenues of growth across multiple touchpoints beyond current and narrow spaces. Thirdly, go beyond needs. Think tensions. Tensions are signs or tests that tell you that the need is being met or what happens if it remains unmet. Tensions make needs more specific and actionable. Take, for example, a need like standout style, but it can mean different things to different people. To some, it means class, sophistication. To others, it may mean standing out through dazzle and shine. Tensions allow you to target and activate the trendsetter versus trend follower very, very differently. Finally, taking a cue from Steve Jobs' quote, show people what is possible and let them choose. Show them solutions, current, incremental, and disruptive, taking into account the meta category that can solve their tensions regardless of any present constraints of existence, availability, or price. This is pure potential, an innovation blueprint. People cannot imagine virtual makeup as a solution for the marketer, but they can definitely tell you whether virtual makeup resolves their need for looking good in all social media calls and photos. These four cornerstones culminate in choice-based unconstrained questioning. No scale responses on what is important to her. She is asked to make choices in the context of the meta category. So over here it is about skin cleansing and care option and not really soaps or fairness cream. She makes choice in context of her own life from a group of alternatives. An alliance is created for her using her own details real time so that she feels comfortable revealing even potentially embarrassing truths about herself. Each alternative, as you can see, comprises the solution meeting emotional and functional needs, replicating real life decision in a comparative context. Based on the choice she makes, we ladder into tensions underlying the need. If she wants confidence, what does it mean? And the same is done for functional needs as well. The choice data that we captured, including the ladder tension, is converted into utilities and then run through singular value decomposition, which is an AI-based bi-clustering approach classifying not just people but also attributes based on their relationship. And this resulted into future opportunity spaces that I showed you a few minutes back. Finally, I'm going to end with what it all means for insights and markets therefore. Client C-Suite has created an action regional plan for future shaping. Present behavior decoding is useful, but not the best starting point for deciding the future. So in order to shape the future, begin with people making choices in meta category. And this is co-work, co-partnership journey where insights and marketing and innovation all together work as one single team. Thank you.
Am I clear and audible enough? Thank you for that interesting presentation, guys. Couple of questions that actually were going through my head as well, and would love to clarify. What you've done is an interesting new twist on the methodology. So you've thought about the consumer first, as in people, and not rather than consumers. And what you've also done is, in order to understand, the hidden tensions, you've come up with a different scale and the way the respondents have made choices. Very, very interesting. I would love to understand what was the inspiration for this kind of a twist in the new methodology that you've done. What prompted you to do that?
Honestly, I was particularly bored with the way we were doing segmentation for years. Can you hear me?
1 second. I can't hear what she's saying. So can you increase the volume? Yeah, please go ahead.
The light-hearted answer is that I was bored with the way we had been doing segmentation for years. But the more interesting answer is, I have been in particular doing segmentation for now 16 years, since the first year I joined market research. And over the years, it has evolved. But over the years, what you've also realized is that sometimes our vision of how we are seeing people is very narrow. And
right.
From marketers and from the marketers, it translates back to researchers and back to the marketers. We tend to define people basis the way we see them, when it should be the other way around. If ultimately winning people is the key to winning the market, then you have to begin with people. And therefore we said that it is very, very important that let go of predefined notions of who a consumer is, let go of predefined notions of what category and competition is. And trust me, Manish, it has not been easy. We have the first time we did it, actually we spent a lot of time convincing the client, and hats off to the client who basically then went, the CMI team who went and convinced the stakeholders as to why this is important, why you should not be looking at soaps and you should be looking at personal care or personal wash, why you should not be looking at saying my consumer is 18 to 25-year-old user of fairness creams 5 times a day, and rather be looking at where the opportunities lie and where they are likely to evolve to. And therefore what that has allowed us to do in a the big thing is we've been able to tell marketers where people are evolving to and where you are lagging behind. I think that has been that was a big motivation, because often we are told, and it started with the Steve Jobs quote that we had at the start. Often it starts with people people deriding market research. Oh, it can't tell you the future. Oh, it can't really tell you, consumers can't tell you what they want. The point is we are perhaps asking the wrong questions, and we just have to put ourselves in their shoes, and that is what has made all the difference over here. So
Fantastic. One of the things that I'm thinking about is that we should make sure that you're getting bored more often. If you're going to come up with such inspiring stuff, and if you're bored, you should get bored more often. But jokes apart, I think the fundamental tenet that look at them as people rather than the consumers or buyers of a category sort of has opened up lots of ideas for you. I was wondering that, do you think this kind of a method works in categories which are highly emotional, or do you think this kind of a thing can work across categories?
it can work across categories. So if it can work in FMCG, it can work in CPG, it can work in because ultimately in any category, what we as people want when we are buying an iPhone, there are certain emotional needs and there are certain functional needs and there's certain expectations. When we are buying when we are buying biscuits or when we are buying creams, the same thing applies. It's just that the nature of that expectation changes, and that is why the element of meta category is also important, so that it doesn't become too generic and there is a focused actionability for the marketer, because it's at the end of the day it's not a esoteric academic exercise. There has to be actionability, and that is why we say look at the meta category, and that will give you that kind of insight. So don't think cost, think mobility.
Right. Finally, one last question. How easy or difficult was it for respondents to respond to a scale like this? Do you think it was intuitive? Did they struggle with it? It was quite natural?
It was actually quite natural. I'll tell you one of the things, and Romit can add over here. One of the key constraints we set out for ourselves was that the interview length should not go beyond 15-20 minutes.
Right.
And so we, and therefore it had to be short, it had to be interesting. And typically, our data quality has been absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. We have had very few outliers. I think typically they range between 5% odd, which for an exercise like segmentation is actually quite big. And we have been getting very clear discriminations without necessarily needing to do a lot of hundreds of iterations per se. Romit, would you like to add to this?
And one more thing that I just want to add to what Ranjana is saying. I mean, if you see the heart of the question, right? The way we asked the question, it was very much, it was like you are responding to a concept. You are not responding to a need, right?
Romit has got frozen, looks like.
Yeah, okay, I can carry that forward. I think what we are saying is that ultimately the way we ask people to make choices, the way people make choices in real life, they don't really isolate, say, this is my emotional need, this is my functional need, this is the product I'm going to. They'll evaluate everything in its entirety. And I think that part of it is pretty natural. The second thing is using qualitative technique like projective allowed people to, be free and admit whatever they wanted to without feeling, societal constraints. So it has worked for us so far. There have been, just yesterday I was seeing another result, and it's absolutely fantastic what we've got.
Super. It was absolutely fascinating and interesting to listen to you and your new thing that you tried. Thank you very much. Also, having a conversation with you, Ranjini and Romit, felt like you're literally sitting next to me. So, that's the thing that technology has brought in. But thank you very much. We now hand over to Rakshit to introduce the next paper. Thank you.